Have you ever thought about quitting your job to chase your dreams? I did. Along the way, I learned a lot, grew so much as a person, and ultimately found my passion in sales. Leaving my career behind in air traffic control to travel the world, go rock climbing, and eventually find my callings in sales. Now, this journey was filled with a lot of ups and downs, a lot of learning lessons, but ultimately it was very, very worth it. So today I'll be sharing my journey from being nearly broke in India to generating over $18 million in sales and ultimately teaching others how to do the same. I follow the traditional path, which is go to school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, then get a job in your field. I went through that process growing up in Minnesota, school in North Dakota, eventually getting a job as an air traffic controller in Utah. After I graduated college, I didn't go straight to Utah. In fact, I had almost a 2-year window of like, go do whatever you want type of thing. I moved out to Colorado. I was a snowboard instructor. Then in the summertime, I worked for a whitewater rafting company. And then again, back to the snowboard instructor job until the government actually called me out to start my work. And when I first arrived at my facility, they call it, the place that I was gonna work in Salt Lake City, I almost immediately knew that it wasn't gonna be for me. People that were there were lazy, unmotivated, out of shape, low energy, just not fun people to be around. The job itself was actually pretty cool, but you'll see in a moment why I decided to leave and what I ended up building instead. As I was reading and spending a lot of time studying books on self-development, personal help, you could call it, right? I started with 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Stephen Covey. A friend of mine told me, you know what, read it, you'll take what you like out of it, and then obviously you can dump the rest. So I resisted the urge to put that book aside just because the title, read it, and my mind was blown. What this book did was inspire me to take a mini retirement. And how that looked is I actually resigned from my career as an air traffic controller. At the time I was making $120,000, $130,000 per year. But I resigned, knew that there's a good chance I'll never be able to come back, and went and traveled the world. And so this was my mini retirement. I'd always been super interested in both rock climbing and Latin America. So first I went to Yosemite, spent 2 months there, did some of the most epic rock climbs in the world. If you're familiar, climbing El Capitan in a day is no small feat, but I've done it multiple times and had a blast doing it in one of the best styles, the most fun styles possible. After I spent a bunch of time in Yosemite, I bought a one-way ticket down to Bogota, Colombia. Basically, I fell in love with Colombia immediately. I didn't remember all the Spanish that I learned in high school, but I picked it up. I had enough exposure in high school and learned all the advanced concepts. I think I even got credits in college for the Spanish that I took in high school. Yeah, when I first got off the airplane, I had a really hard time communicating with my taxi driver, with the people I was staying with, and everything like that. For the next 5 months, I kind of wandered through South America. I went just about everywhere except for Brazil, next to Peru, where I surfed some more, and then Chile and Argentina, where I spent most of my time rock climbing, partying, just enjoying life. After this 5 months ended, I returned to the States, spent some time skiing in the perfect time of year, the February-March timeframe in Utah, and then moved into a van and went up to both Yosemite, then the Pacific Northwest. Here, I just enjoying the outdoors, spending time just like on retirement. Now, the problem here was hadn't figured out the business thing yet and was just kind of confused at how long am I going to be traveling around, figuring it out, finding myself, as they say. So what I did, I'd always been interested in meditation. I booked a one-way ticket to Asia. And I flew straight to Vietnam with the intent of I'm going to go find some monks to meditate with. And I'd heard Vietnam might be, better than Thailand. Vietnam is pretty cool, but it's also not the best place for both meditation and for studying mindfulness. I ended up spending most of my time just partying in Vietnam. After Vietnam, I went to Laos and I had the most transformational experience, probably the greatest experience I've ever had, meditating with a monk under a tree. And I'll explain that story in another video. Before we get there, after meeting this guy in Laos, I went to Thailand and spent some time, meditating with the monks at a proper monastery. But then what started to happen is when I went to India, which is the last country I went to, my money in my bank account was just going down and down and down. And I started realizing I was kind of screwed. I had quit the dream job that I had gotten from college to go travel the world. And now what skills did I have? what was I gonna do? Here, I really hit this low point, which you'll see in most people's lives. The low point ends up being the determining characteristic of like what they do with their life. And there's a lot of personal growth there. As I'm running out of money, I started reading a lot. One of the books that I picked up from the library, like I wasn't even buying the books, I was just renting them from the library, was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read through this book and immediately had some just massive mindset shifts around wealth and just money in general. One of the biggest things was you have to learn sales, right? Sales doesn't need to be sleazy. You have to learn sales, and sales and copywriting are just foundational, fundamental skills. At this time, I was also spending a lot of time studying online business on Twitter. If you guys are familiar with Twitter, it's called Money Twitter. It's probably one of the best environments to learn in, to be honest. It's pretty raw. There's kind of this almost like locker room banter or water cooler banter to it. People who are actually doing the thing, as opposed to like going to business school, studying business from a professor who's never done business. After learning about money, learning about sales, knowing this is what I needed to perfect, I started trying a business model here or there. Like I built a website and didn't understand that you needed to send traffic to the website. So that was first failed business, right? I still remember the domain. I think it was like wake up and smell the flowers or something ridiculous like that. The next thing, like money was just dying and dying. Like everything was failing that I was trying. I was running out of money. I decided to go find a sales job where I could learn sales while getting trained. Just by luck, as I was scrolling through the classifieds, I found a door-to-door solar job. I was really scared of the door-to-door, but also I had read like door-to-door is the way to get good and the way to get good fast. I committed for the next 5 months doing door-to-door solar. I learned a lot. I picked up one of the best mentors I ever have, and I still use techniques and things that I learned from that process today in my sales process. So this was back in 2018, and I'm so grateful for this experience because like this was the foundation of me learning sales. After doing the door-to-door, daylight savings time happened. Plus it was cold in Utah, so it's getting dark before 5 o'clock. Homeowners typically didn't get home until after 5 o'clock. And I just wasn't seeing the like return on my time invested anymore to keep knocking doors, at least not during the daylight hours. And during the nighttime hours in the cold, it just sucked. Left that job, set that aside, started doing cold calling for real estate. Now, at the time, didn't even know what cold calling was. I mean, maybe I'd heard the name before, but didn't know much about real estate. But I had found a mentor who had promised like 20 to 40K per month, at least that's what the ad said, in earnings to come and work with him. Came in, nice guy, smart guy, just was way ahead of himself. He thought that he essentially read a book on how to flip apartments and then wanted help executing the strategy without much, like there wasn't much experience as we started there. That wasn't actually the problem. The problem was like the script was all about us. It was just I am a local investor here in Utah. I want to buy your apartment type of pitch. Nothing about the prospect. That unfortunately flopped like crazy. The 20 to 40K monthly earnings, in actuality, I made $2,000 over 2 months. Definitely wasn't lucrative. I learned a lot. So this was another experience that stacked up, more skills and more learning for me in my journey. Next came copywriting. So I've been reading so much. Nate Schmidt, if you're familiar, he might be the founder or the father of Money Twitter. Joking aside, he's really smart. So I took his copywriting course, learned copy, and then went out and started getting clients. And to be honest, I got super lucky that my initial mentor from the solar gig needed a copywriter. So she was my first client. I started off doing hourly, then transitioned to project-based. Then she was able to connect me with other clients. And to be honest, I was doing pretty decent with copywriting. I mean, I was only making like $3,000-4,000 per month. At that time, that felt like a lot, and it was proof that what I was doing was actually working. So as I'm learning copy, I'm realizing, and writing the copy, I'm realizing I don't actually like the writing, which is a problem, obviously. So I wasn't enjoying the process. Everybody that I was following says like, screw your passion, just do what makes money. Problem was, I was pushing the copy off. Like I didn't want to do it. I was saving the writing until like the deadline and then just hammering it out, not doing a good job editing, ultimately just not even doing a very good job for my clients. I realized copywriting wasn't the vehicle that I wanted. And so here's where I was kind of stumped for a bit. I was going back and forth with what to do. I talked to my mentor and she said, you're good at getting clients. You're not scared of talking to people. So why don't you just focus on sales? This was around 2021, early 2021, before high ticket sales had really blown up on Twitter. As I was searching around, figuring out how exactly I wanted to do it, again, just by luck and my network, found somebody that I had met in Thailand. He was looking for an intern for his 6-figure business. And him looking for an intern, I just immediately raised my hand like, I don't know what exactly you're doing, but I want to learn. I want to figure out what's on the inside of these 6-figure businesses because I've seen them being built on Twitter, but I have no idea how to actually do it. What he was looking for specifically was somebody to set appointments and close deals for him. And this just lined up perfectly with what I wanted to learn next, which was really focusing on sales. He spent a lot of time mentoring me, training me, helping me get better with my tonality, helping me become more empathetic when talking to people about their problems and getting really deep. I ended up getting really good at setting the appointments. I was telling somebody else, hey, I'm really good at these first 15-minute calls, but I can't figure out how to close the deal, which obviously, if you're watching this, you probably already know closing the deal, the second call is the one that actually matters. It's funny in hindsight. Like I said, decent at setting the appointments, still couldn't close a deal. This business owner and I, we kept our arrangement going for a while. He kind of turned down the volume. He started taking some because he saw that I wasn't closing any deals and he was actually paying for the leads. We later find out that the funnel he was running was just not ideal. I didn't even know really what to think about a funnel at that point, so I wouldn't have even known anyways. After having this exposure to sales, I was in the middle of a training from Tej Dosa, it was called how to sign your first, or the new way to sign high ticket clients. And so I went through this training. It was a 30-day action or implementation system. And after 6 days, I got 3 clients, 3 new offers to be on. So this was designed for copywriters, but I just flipped it and used it for finding offers itself for high ticket clients. The process itself is super simple. If you don't know who Tej Dosa is, I highly recommend you figure out who he is, especially if you're interested in copy. This system landed me 3 clients. Now, 2 of them were appointment setting gigs. One of them was a closing gig, nearly full-time with an OTE of about 15 grand. One of the 2 appointment setting gigs was cold calling dentists, which to me still doesn't make sense. Dentists don't answer the phone. The secretary always does. And getting a hold of the dentist on the first call, good luck. Obviously the closing call, scheduled call, that's a different story, but first call makes no sense. I dropped that one right away. And then the next offer was a similar agency, lead generation, but for a niche that was much easier to contact. This was swimming pool contractor. So I actually ended up working with this business owner for over a year, just 24 or 26 days into working with him. I told him from the beginning, hey, I'll come in as your setter. I'm going to prove to you that I'm going to be your closer, and I'm going to help you scale your team, and so on. And I did all of that. I spoke all of that into existence. It was actually incredible. The closing offer that I had, it was, I guess, kind of overhyped, not that great of an offer. I made $400 in 4 months. But the thing that I got out of it that's absolutely irreplaceable was the experience, the meetings, the trainings, all of this intangible stuff. So my road to actually having success in sales probably took 4.5 months before I started actually making $4 grand per month. And even that's obviously not very much, but to me at the time, that was enough to, justify continuing this path and being able to afford more than afford my living expenses while I was traveling. While I'm working these jobs, I bought a one-way ticket to Cancun and set up in Playa del Carmen for a bit. Then after I got kind of sick of Mexico, I decided, okay, Colombia is the place, and ended up staying in Colombia for a long time. Here in Colombia, I'm just taking Zoom calls, closing deals, really doing well at the marketing agency, trying to figure out, how do I scale this to 10K per month? Because that, for me, was the goal. I was used to making a little bit more than that, but that's, basically everybody's goal when they first come in. So what I ended up doing was building out a team underneath me. I realized I needed to get the intro calls, the qualification calls off my calendar. So I went out and hired my first setter. That worked out really well. So I ended up hiring another setter to train underneath him as the outbound guy. So now I was just flooding my calendar with appointments. Now from here, I was scrolling on Twitter and found somebody who was a coach, and I also had seen this other coaching program that had been advertised a lot. That one was just never in alignment with me. Found a coach and worked with him one-on-one to review my calls. I've always known that paying somebody who's ahead of me makes the most sense when I want to get to where I want to be fast. I don't want to waste time and spend a lot of time. So instead, spent money, hired a coach, worked one-on-one with him, and over the course of those 10 sessions, I probably 10x my investment, just as far as what I learned, the additional deals that I closed, and so on. And so this is what really allowed me to see between teaching my setters and also learning from a coach one-on-one, how important this one-on-one or a very small group environment is. And that's actually what in the long term led to my coaching program, which we can talk about in another video. Working one-on-one with the coach and then also coaching my setters eventually organically grew into my coaching program. What I realized is the most important thing is being in the right rooms with people who are smarter than you, who can teach you the skill that you want to learn and help you get there fast. And so my coach helped me review my calls, helped me get really sharp and really good on my calls. And then I was helping my appointment setters get really good on their calls so they could set me more appointments, which would in turn lead to them getting better sales and then me closing more deals. Now, the way that my coaching program actually started is pretty unique. So the guy that I was mentoring, his name's Alex, he flew from the UK to Colombia to meet me. We rented a penthouse, and to meet me in the penthouse, we had mastermind essentially for a month, talking about sales, talking about online business. And at one point, he mentioned his mom asked, like, hey, are you paying Jeff for this mentorship? And like, we kind of laughed about it. And I just then turned it more serious and said, hey, do you want to pay me? And he ended up just saying, yeah, make me an offer. And I made him an offer that was obviously so good that he was like, well, you've already helped me this much. It's very clear that, yeah, I want to pay you to work together. So from there forward is when I started my coaching program. And I had this imposter syndrome. I wasn't sure if I was like good enough to be a coach, but he was just laughing. He's like, dude, what you're telling me, it's so ridiculous how far you've helped me come in sales. It's just clear testament that you know what you're doing and you should absolutely help more and more people with this. So as I started taking on clients, I noticed one thing that was super, super important. And this was that the one-on-one environment was somebody who's hungry, somebody who is going to take notes during the call, then also review the call for later. These people are so easy to get success for, and they're so fun to work with. So I started really focusing on the one-on-one side of coaching. And I thought, yeah, maybe someday I will move it into a group coaching program because obviously group coaching is more scalable. But what I found is while group coaching is a really good model for profit, the actual success rate is extremely low. At least the success rate that's promised in the marketing versus what they get is very different. So I was super bummed to hear that. And while I had started a more one-to-many group style coaching program, I realized that what I care about more than anything is helping people get results. And so this is when I switched back to the more one-on-one focus. Now, we still have group sessions and collaborative sessions because obviously we kind of use that as a mastermind to help people learn from other people and really enhance the learning experience. But what I'm focused on more now is the very personalized one-on-one and really helping people dig into their beliefs. So you'll see this in some of my other videos, but beliefs and mindset are the two most important things that everybody neglects. They want to hear the tactics. They want to hear, they say this, you say that. I don't believe in any of that. What I believe in is fundamentally understanding how does somebody see the world, really understanding it, noting any flaws you see, helping them possibly change those flaws, right? So if they have a belief that is completely incompatible with them doing something they want to do, it's your job as a salesperson or a coach to help them overcome that. So for example, somebody told me, hey, yeah, I really want to do this. I just don't make decisions on this first call. And he wanted to be a sales closer. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, okay, that's a problem. Here's the reason why. Gave him some coaching on it. The coaching on it, just in case you don't know, is how are you as a closer going to help people make a decision on their first call if you can't even do it yourself, right? So super simple, super obvious, but it was something that immediately after I said that, I could notice his posture changed, his eyes kind of lit up, and he's like, yeah, you're right. And that is something that I want to change. And so he got started right then and there. So my style of sales is really all around beliefs, obviously around asking a bunch of questions in discovery to really understand where this person's at and how you can help them best. And ultimately, this just makes sales fun and almost like a game. All right, so after making the transition to the one-on-one coaching and realizing this was the way, I started just seeing epic results after epic results after epic result. After focusing almost exclusively on the more personalized, more one-on-one approach, the results I saw for my students were just absolutely amazing. So Tanner, for example, within just 5 weeks of working with me, he was able to quit a $120K per year job and find a $20K per month OTE sales job. So he'll literally double his income once he ramps all the way up to KPI. And he was able to find that in just 5 weeks. So seeing how fast he had results, also being able to place people like Brendan onto an offer within a week, being able to place other people like Alex onto an offer, and Alex actually ramped up to a 57% close rate in his first month. All right, so if you're feeling stuck in the current path of life that you're in, if you're not feeling fulfilled in the job that you're in, or if you just want to ditch what you're doing right now to pursue something that's more fulfilling, I'll tell you right now, the journey may be rocky to get there, but it is 100% worth it. If you're interested in sales specifically, I made another video for you. It shows you how to make 5 to 20K every single month from anywhere in the world, even if you have a desk job with sales. I'm going to put that as link number 1 in the description here, and go ahead and either subscribe or like this video if you want to see more content related to escaping the 9-to-5, selling high ticket offers, traveling the world, and just anything related to getting more freedom. Thanks for watching, guys.